A single deleted moment. 17 seconds. One smiling child in a Superman costume, and suddenly the internet wasn't looking at pumpkins anymore. It was staring straight into the heart of the Sussex mystery. Because when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry posted that Halloween 2025 video, no one expected it to detonate a quiet nuclear bomb inside their carefully controlled universe. The porch glowed orange. Jack-o'-lanterns flickered like harmless little lanterns of joy. Then the camera tilted, and there he was, Archie. Tiny Superman cape, bat-shaped candy in hand, big round eyes, curly hair falling softly across his forehead, and for the first time in years, his face was fully visible. Not blurred, not angled, not turned away. He waved, he smiled, and millions leaned closer to their screens. It was innocent, adorable, disarming, and then gone. 30 minutes. That's all it lasted. Deleted. Replaced. The new version? Shorter. Neater. Cleaner. And the exact segment where Archie's face was clearest? Surgically removed. Not trimmed awkwardly, not glitched, cleanly excised. That's when Piers Morgan leaned back in his chair and whispered a question that would refuse to die. Why cut that? He wasn't shouting. He wasn't accusing. He was studying. He replayed the preserved version someone had saved before it vanished, frame by frame. When Archie looked directly into the camera, pause, zoom, study. This was rare. After years of distant shots, back-of-head photos, strategic arm blocks, here was clarity, and clarity had just been erased. He opened older images, 2019, 2020, 2021. Archie on Harry's shoulders, face turned away. Archie holding a hand, camera positioned just so. Archie partially shielded by shadows or arms, skillful, deliberate, too consistent to be accidental. That night, sleep avoided him. He contacted someone who worked in image technology, someone who had previously helped dissect deepfakes and manipulated footage. Nothing dramatic, he said, just curiosity. Run a facial comparison tool. Check similarity between Archie and Meghan. The results arrived days later. A number, a quiet, unassuming percentage. Lower than expected, not impossible, not proof of anything explosive, but lower than what a biological mother and son pairing typically displays. He didn't smile when he saw it. He stared at rain streaking down a London window and felt something heavier than triumph. If he spoke, chaos. If he stayed silent, the question would rot inside him. So he wrote carefully, calmly, a restrained headline. He didn't accuse. He didn't declare conspiracy. He simply laid out facts. Video posted, video removed, facial similarity unexpected. And then he asked, if Archie is Meghan's biological son, why remove the clearest image of his face? The article detonated. Within hours, it spread across platforms. Hashtags climbed. Screenshots resurfaced. People who had never questioned anything suddenly paused because it wasn't the AI score that disturbed them. It was the deletion, the erasure, the pattern. What exactly is going on with Archie? That's when Piers began assembling pieces like someone reconstructing a shattered mirror. He printed photos, spread them across his desk. Chronological order, newborn photo, garden play, birthday clip, picnic shoulders. He studied the details. Archie's eyes pale blue, almost identical to Harry's childhood photos. Not Meghan's deep brown. Hair, blondish curls, nothing like Meghan's sleek dark strands. Face shape, sharper chin, straighter nose. Of course genetics can surprise. Of course children resemble one parent more than another. But side by side, the pattern leaned overwhelmingly one direction. He wasn't a geneticist, but he wasn't blind either. Then he pulled up pregnancy photos. Meghan stepping out of a car, hand on belly. Another gala, another public appearance. He zoomed. The bump, it changed. High and forward 1 week, lower and flatter another. Subtle enough that casual viewers would never notice, but obvious once you were looking. Pregnancy doesn't fluctuate like a balloon losing and gaining air between events. He remembered whispers, backstage murmurs. People who had once worked near the couple mentioning how Archie was often passed quickly to staff after short camera appearances. How maternal moments felt timed, precise, curated. He didn't publish those names. They weren't solid enough, but they added texture to the unease. By 3 a.m., his desk was covered in fragments. One detail alone, nothing. Together, something uncomfortable. This wasn't about hating Meghan. He had criticized her before, yes, but this felt different. This was about a child, about origins, about narrative control. Days later, Meghan responded, not through a tweet, not through a spokesperson, but live television. White dress, composed, eyes shadowed with exhaustion exhaustion. She spoke of pain, pressure, mental health, protection. He is my and Harry's biological son. The studio audience softened. She explained the Halloween clip removal as privacy protection. She emphasized normal childhood. She rejected the obligation to disclose medical records, and she looked into the camera with fire. These attacks will not continue without consequence. Applause. Support flooded social media. But beneath the sympathy, a quieter undercurrent flowed. Her words were powerful, but they were still just words. No hospital departure photo like other royals, no independent medical confirmation, no documentation. When Piers watched from his dim living room, he didn't feel victory. He felt emptiness. She speaks beautifully, he muttered to himself, but words alone cannot fill this silence. The next morning, he sharpened his response. He acknowledged her sincerity. Then he guided readers back to visuals, the changing bump, the quick bending movements in late pregnancy, the brisk walking at events where most women would move slower in their 8th or 9th month. Small inconsistencies, but consistent enough when stacked together. The internet exploded again. Meghan posted defiantly. Harry spoke briefly. My family is everything. Don't touch them. It sounded protective, but it didn't sound detailed. And then something unexpected. An elderly doctor from within the royal medical system reached out privately. The meeting took place in a quiet hotel on London's outskirts. He spoke calmly. Meghan did not give birth at the traditional royal hospital. Instead, a private non-royal facility. The official reason? Privacy. But there had been internal discussions, concerns, control, no royal medical team involvement, no independent verification. Archie was born, the doctor confirmed, but outside the usual oversight. When the audio aired, the world went still. Meghan's spokesperson called it a violation of privacy, a personal decision. But for many, it deepened doubt rather than extinguishing it. And then came the most powerful move of all. Silence. No press conference. No documents. No photo showing Archie clearly again. Instead, a sunset image. Harry and Archie from behind, facing the sea. Caption, finding peace. No Meghan in frame. Why backs turned? Why now? Rumors multiplied. Marriage strain? Internal fractures? Was Harry protecting or suppressing something even he struggled with? Brands began stepping away quietly. Collaborations dissolved. Statements about trust and transparency emerged. Piers stopped throwing bombs. He simply repeated one line. I'm not convicting anyone. I'm asking questions. And the silence grew heavier. By early 2026, the story faded from headlines, but not from memory. Forums kept dissecting. Hashtags resurfaced. Every new Sussex post was analyzed. And still, no clear image of Archie facing the camera again. One late evening, Piers reopened the original 17-second Halloween clip, paused on the smile, the wave. He stared at the boy for a long time, then whispered into the dark, this is where it all began. Because sometimes it's not the accusation that shakes a dynasty. It's the deletion. And this deletion had become louder than any statement ever made. The silence did not calm the storm. It fed it. After the royal doctor's audio aired, the world waited, not for gossip, not for speculation, but for something solid. A document, a hospital record, a photo that could not be questioned, a direct, unwavering denial that dismantled every thread at once. Instead, nothing. No press conference. No medical release, no side-by-side photo, just silence stretching longer than anyone expected. And silence in a royal story is never empty. It echoes. Hashtags like Archie Truth and Sussex Secret refused to die. They pulsed quietly in online forums. Frame-by-frame analyses multiplied. Old interviews resurfaced. Pregnancy timelines were mapped. Speeches were rewatched with new suspicion. And then, out of nowhere, a photograph. Harry and Archie, backs turned, standing at the ocean at sunset. Soft golden light. Perfect composition. Almost poetic. But Meghan was absent. The caption read simply, finding peace. Finding peace from what? People zoomed in. Analyzed shadows, measured Archie's height against Harry's, compared previous images. It was no longer curiosity, it was obsession. Why no front-facing image again? Why continue the distance? Why avoid the one thing that would silence everything? Harry finally posted something personal. I love my wife and son more than anything. Don't let rumors destroy us. It sounded heartfelt, emotional, defensive, but still no direct dismantling of the claims. He did not address the hospital question. He did not address the facial comparison. He did not explain the Halloween deletion. And for critics, that omission screamed louder than any denial ever could. Meanwhile, the commercial world reacted quietly, coldly. A luxury fashion collaboration canceled. An upcoming brand campaign paused. An executive statement about transparency and trust. No one explicitly mentioned Archie, but everyone knew reputation in branding is fragile, and when public trust begins to crack, corporations do not wait for conclusions. They step back. Insiders whispered about early contract exits, financial penalties, tension behind closed doors. For a couple who had carefully crafted an image of modern royalty mixed with Hollywood independence, the cracks were suddenly visible. And through all of this, Meghan posted carefully curated quotes: love, resilience, strength, family, but not one clear, unmistakable image of her son's face looking directly into the camera beside her. The absence became the headline. Weeks turned into months. The fever cooled publicly but never disappeared privately. In quiet online communities, the discussion never died. People built timelines, they overlaid pregnancy photos, they dissected public appearances from the final trimester. One clip resurfaced Meghan bending low during a public event in late pregnancy. Fluid, quick, almost athletic. Another showed her walking briskly down a red carpet. Critics argued it was unusual. Supporters argued every pregnancy is different. The truth? Somewhere buried between perception and reality. Then something more subtle began happening. Harry's appearances felt different. His smile thinner. His public comments shorter. He defended his wife, but with emotional language, not factual reinforcement. He spoke of love, of protecting family, of cruelty in media. But he never once stood before cameras and said plainly. There was no surrogate. He never released medical confirmation, and that silence kept the door open. Inside royal circles, insiders reportedly debated privately whether tradition had been broken too dramatically. Royal births historically followed predictable transparency, hospital steps, signed bulletins, formal announcements. This time, a deviation. And deviations in monarchy are never small things. Late one evening in early 2026, Piers Morgan sat alone again. London rain tapping against the window like an impatient audience. He reopened the original Halloween clip, 17 seconds. He paused at Archie's wave. The innocence in that smile was untouched by scandal, unaware of debates, unaware of trending hashtags, just a child. And yet, around that smile, an empire of doubt had formed. He leaned back and exhaled slowly. He had never claimed proof. He had never presented a smoking gun. He had asked questions, and the questions were still unanswered. That was the part that unsettled people most. Not accusation, not confirmation, but the vacuum. Because in public life, especially royal life, when something is simple, it is clarified. When something is normal, it is documented. When something is straightforward, it is proven. This was none of those things. Months later, Meghan posted again, a hazy family portrait, soft lighting, distant framing, Archie playing, face partially obscured by motion blur, a caption about resilience. Comments flooded in, support and skepticism colliding violently beneath a carefully filtered square image. By then, the story was no longer front-page news, but it had changed something permanent. Trust, once fractured, does not return easily. For some, Meghan's choice to remain silent was strength, refusing to bow to invasive speculation. For others, it was strategy, withholding the one thing that could close the debate. For critics, every deletion looked like concealment. For supporters, every deletion looked like protection. And somewhere in the middle, a child grew older, unaware that his first clear Halloween wave had become one of the most analyzed moments in modern royal history. No confession ever came. No dramatic courtroom revelation. No explosive Dina leak. The story did not end in fire. It ended in fog. A thick, lingering fog where questions float without anchors. In that fog lives one persistent thought. If there was nothing to hide, why hide anything? Piers eventually stopped dedicating full segments to the topic. He would mention it occasionally. A line here, a reminder there. But the intensity softened. Even storms exhaust themselves. Yet late at night, in online corners of the world, the 17-second clip still plays. People still freeze the frame, still compare features, still debate the bump, still ask what Harry truly knows, and still wonder whether Meghan's silence was a shield or an unintentional spark that turned curiosity into suspicion. Because sometimes, in a world addicted to spectacle, the loudest scandal is not what is revealed, it's what disappears. And that Halloween deletion, small, fleeting, almost innocent, became the moment everything shifted. Not because it proved anything, but because it left a void. And in royal history, voids have a way of haunting far longer than headlines. Now the question lingers, unchanged since that first article. Was removing those images an act of fierce maternal protection? Or did it quietly carve a shadow that will follow the Sussex name forever? No dramatic ending, no courtroom finale, just rain falling on London streets, a computer screen going dark, and somewhere a preserved 17-second clip that refuses to let the questions rest. Refuses to let the questions rest. Refuses to let the questions rest. Refuses to let the questions rest.